You've tuned in to the unavailing frequency. But don't touch that dial. We've got you right where we want you.
This is the Bloodline Archive, Part 2, The Second Drawer. The counting stopped at midnight. I know because I was staring at my phone when it did, watching the clock tick from 11:59 to 12 o'clock on the dot. And the voice outside, if it was a voice, if outside even means what I think it means, cut off mid-syllable like a tape pulled from a player. Then nothing. No footsteps, no car doors, just the hum of the motel's ice machine 2 rooms down, and my own heartbeat doing something arrhythmic, stupid, there in my chest. I didn't sleep. I want to stop mentioning that because I suspect it will become the least interesting thing about this account, but I think it matters here that you understand the state I was in when I made the decision I made next. Because Arrested Man would not have done what I did. Arrested Man would have kept driving. I opened the desk. I know. My grandfather's last written words across 14 generations of careful men who apparently knew things worth dying to protect were an instruction not to do the exact thing I did 4 days later in a Motel 6 parking lot at 1 in the morning. But I want to explain my reasoning, because I don't think it was as stupid as it sounds. The photograph of me sleeping told me one thing very clearly. Whatever was hunting me already knew where I was, already knew my habits, already had access to information no ordinary person could have. Hiding was not a strategy, it was just a delay, and delays only work if you're delaying towards something, a plan maybe, an escape, an answer, but I didn't have one. The desk was the only object in my possession that might. So I got the tire iron from my trunk because the drawer was locked and I didn't have the key. I broke it open in the parking lot under a flickering sodium light. And I need you to know that I've never in my life felt more like a man than the last 10 minutes of a movie before something terrible happens to him. I felt that, and I did it anyways. Inside the drawer, a revolver, old but well oiled, 6 chambers, 5 bullets, a rosary. There wasn't a rosary. I counted the beads twice and there were 13, not the customary number. And each bead had been carved, not molded, but with a symbol I didn't recognize. Tiny and identical on every one. A second, smaller ledger, this one bound in something that was not leather, something with a grain too fine and too cold to be animal hide. I didn't touch it with my bare hand longer than I had to. A folded piece of paper, modern, laser printed, dated 11 days before my grandfather's death. The paper was a list of names. 14 names, and next to each a set of coordinates in a single word. Alive. 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 Going down the list until the 11th entry, which read, severed. And the 12th, 13th, and 14th, which all read, silent. My grandfather's name was on the list. Beside it, alive, crossed out in a different pen, and beneath the crossed out, and handwriting so shaky it barely qualified as its own. Substitution installed. Watch the boy. I was the boy. I sat in that parking lot for a long time with the revolver in my lap, doing the math again, because the math is the only thing in this whole nightmare that has ever made me feel sane. 14 bloodlines. 11 marked alive. 1 severed. My grandfather's line, severed and patched with a substitution, meaning me. Meaning a man who's never supposed to be able to carry this at all. And 3 marked silent, which I didn't understand yet, though I would come to wish very much that I still didn't. I was reaching for the smaller ledger, the cold, grained one, when my phone rang. I don't give my number out. I changed it 2 weeks ago, the day after the photograph, and told exactly 4 people. My mom, my sister, my landlord, and my boss, who who'd I'd informed I was taking a family emergency leave. The screen read, unknown, no area code, just that word, block capitals like the network itself had made a decision about how to label the call. And I answered it. I don't know why. I think some animal part in me needed to hear a voice that wasn't counting in a language I couldn't place. You opened it early, the voice said. It was a man's voice, older, tired in a way that had nothing to do with age. Tired the way stone is tired, worn down by a duration no single life accounts for. That's all right. He always said you would. Elias had a theory about you. He said you were the kind of man who'd rather know the shape of the thing killing him than die comfortable and ignorant. I told him that gets men killed faster. He said it also gets them killed smarter. Smarter's all we got left to work with in this generation. Who is this? I said, and my voice didn't shake, which surprised me. I think I'd used up my capacity for fear as a private internal weather system. It had moved into something colder and more procedural. My name won't mean anything to you yet. Call me Thomas. I keep the 9th line, or I did. There are 10 of us left who still answer out of the 12, and one of those 10 is not entirely trustworthy anymore, though I won't tell you which over an open line. You're the 12th. You already worked that out, I expect, from the ledger. My grandfather's line is severed, I said. It says it on the list in his desk. A pause, longer than the bad connection would explain. It was severed the day his son died, before he could be born into the accounting. Elias's real heir, his true blood inheritor, the boy who would have carried this, was lost in a miscarriage in 1961. Elias never told your grandmother why he wept for 3 days over it in a way that had nothing to do with grief for a child he had loved anyway. He was grieving the end of 6,000 years of unbroken counting. He spent the next 60 years finding a way around a rule that was never supposed to have an around. And I'm the around. You're the around, Thomas agreed. A daughter's son. It's never been done. Not in any generation any of us have record of. And that's the thing on the other side of the ledger. It doesn't like it when the rules get bent. It is noticed. It has been counting toward you, specifically since the day your grandfather made the substitution, which is not something that usually bothers doing with legitimate heirs. Legitimate heirs, it already knows. It has to learn. I asked him what it was. I wanted to understand. I asked this the way you'd ask a doctor for a diagnosis you already suspect is bad. Not for information, but to make the fear specific enough to fight. We don't have a good word for it, Thomas said. The oldest ledgers call it the debtor, which is a joke none of us find funny anymore, because the joke is that we're the debtors, not it. It collects. It's always collected. What it collects, the actual content of the accounting, the names, the count, none of us fully understand, because the counting was designed 6,000 years ago to be carried, not comprehended. We're merely couriers. We were never meant to open the envelope. I think your grandfather knew that and gave you the smaller ledger anyway, because he ran out of time to find a better solution. I think maybe that was a mistake, and I think you need to not open it until I can get to you. Where are you? Closer than you'd like, Thomas said. I've been 3 days behind whatever's following you since Barstow. It moves a lot faster than I do. It doesn't need a car. That was when the line went dead. Not disconnected, not dropped. Dead in the specific way a phone goes dead when the person on the other end stops being a person mid-sentence. Silence with texture to it, thick like the call was connected to something, just not to Thomas anymore. And then the silence from the far end of the parking lot, past the ice machine, past the flickering sodium light. I heard the counting start again. 12. It said it in English this time. It said it in my grandfather's voice. I got in my car. I didn't look at what was standing at the tree line at the edge of the lot, though I could see in my peripheral vision that it was tall in a way that didn't resolve correctly. The way a word looks wrong if you stare at it too long, its outline suggesting the shape that my eyes kept trying to correct into something human, and I was failing at it. I put the smaller ledger, the revolver, the 13-bead rosary, and the coordinate list on the passenger seat, and I drove, and I didn't stop for 90 minutes, and somewhere around mile 60 I realized I was driving toward the 11th coordinate on the list, the one marked severed, because it was the only place on that list where I might find someone who understood, firsthand, what it felt like to be a broken link in a chain that was never supposed to break. And I didn't know yet that the 11th line hadn't broken by accident. And I didn't know yet that someone had broken it on purpose. And that the reason didn't have anything to do with miscarriage or fate or God. I found that out sooner than I wanted to.